So in this example here, we've got a discount price of a book is 20% less than the retail price. We have this person, James, is buying this book, and they end up paying 30% off the discounted price. What is the percent off the retail price? So we can set this up with an equation. The discounted price of the book, I'll let that be D. If you're taking 20% off the book, you're left with 80% of the retail price. So if I take I'll let R be the retail price here. I'll let D be the discount price. So now we have James purchase the book, and for this special book sale, we'll call this S. James ends up paying 30% off the discount price, which means if I take 30% off the discount price, I'm essentially left with 70% of the original value. So that's going to be 70%, but again, we know that D is 80% of the retail price. If you go ahead and multiply the 0.7 and 0.8, you get 0.56, the retail price, which means that James paid 56% of the retail price here. And the answer to this is D. So for number 7 here, we have each day Robert eats 40% of the pistachios left in a jar. At the end of the second day, 27 pistachios remain. How many pistachios were in the jar to begin with? So on the first day, Robert eats 40% of the pistachios, so he's left with 60% of the original amount. I'll let X be the original amount. Now, the end of the second day, Robert's going to eat 40% again, so it's going to be 60% of that original value from the first day. And you can see here that's going to end up being 0.36 times X. So I know at the end of the second day, there were 27 pistachios left. Solving for X, we get 75, and our answer here is A. So for number 8 here, we have Joanne here bought a doll at a 10% discount off the original price. So 10% off of the 105. However, she had to pay sales tax of X% on the discounted price. The total amount she paid for the doll was $100. What was the value of X? They want to know the sales tax. She got 10% off, so if that means that she paid 90% of the original price. So if I go ahead and calculate our discounted price, we end up getting $94.24. Again, that's the discounted price, and then sales tax was paid, and it came out to be $100. So you had this discounted price of $95.24, and then you multiply it by some value X, and it got you to exactly $100. Solving for X, you get approximately 1.05, which means that, like we had discussed before, this is a 5% increase, and in which case our answer is D. So for number 9 here, we have in 2010, the number of houses built in Town A was 25%. So Town A was 25% greater than the number of houses built in Town B. If 70 houses were built in Town A, how many were built in Town B? So convert this all to an equation. The number of houses built in Town A was 25% greater. So I let A be the number of houses built in Town A, and it was 25% greater than the number of houses built in Town B. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and that would be if B represents the number of houses built in Town B, you multiply by 1.25, and you can see that's equal to A. We know that if 70 houses were built in Town A, substitute that A with a 70, we're now essentially solving this equation for B. Dividing this out, we end up getting 56 houses were built for Town B. 20 more chicken wings and 40% more hot dogs. Considering only chicken wings and hot dogs, Kyle ate approximately X% more food by weight than John. What is X? So here they want that percentage of more food. So for 11 here, Jane is playing a board game in which she must collect as many cards as possible. On her first turn, she loses 18% of her cards. On the second turn, she increases her card count by 36%. If her final card count after these 2 turns is N, which of the following represents her starting card count in terms of N? So we have this person, Jane's playing a board game. She has to collect as many cards as possible. On her first turn, she loses 18%. So let's say we'll let S equal her initial card count, her starting card count, let that be S. And we know that her starting card count is equal to what? It's after the first turn, she loses 18% of her cards. So therefore, I know that she's left with 82% times S. That's her cards after her first turn, right? Because On her first turn, she lost 18% of those cards, so 0.82 times S represents the cards left out the first turn. On the second turn, she increases her card count by 36%. So now she goes into that second turn only having these many cards, but then there's an increase of 36%. So we multiply by 1.36, and that represents the cards on her second turn. Multiplying this out, we get 1.1152 times S. And they're saying here that her final card count after these two turns was equal to N. So it says, which of the following represents her starting card count? Well, starting card count was S. So that's going to be N over 1.1152. This is the answer I got here. Now, you'll see what they've done here is they didn't actually multiply it all out. So right away, if I'm going to start eliminating possibilities, I'm going to B and D don't match mine at all. So the question becomes, is my answer A or C here? If you take a look, if I would not have multiplied this out, I would have had 0.82 on the bottom and then 1.36 as well, which is going to tell me that the answer is C here. For 12 here, it says, due to deforestation, researchers expect the deer population to decline by 6% every year. If the current deer population is 12,000, what is the approximate expected population in 10 years? Well, in this case here, you start off with 12,000 deer, and you're declining by 6% every year, which means you're taking 94% left over every single time, and you want to do that for 10 years. So if I go ahead and calculate this, we get the following. You get approximately 64, 63, 38 deer, and your answer would be B. Okay, let's take a look at number 14 here. So for number 14, we have a small clothing store sells 3 different types of accessories. 20% of them scarves, 6% are ties. There's actually exactly 40 belts. If half of the ties are replaced with scarves, how many more scarves do we have? So in this question here, the number of items in the store we don't know, but I know the number of belts are 40. So I can let S equal the number of scarves. That's going to equal 20%. I'll let that times N. N represents the total number of objects in the store. I know the number of ties is going to be 60% times N. And I know the number of belts we just talked about was 40. So in this case here, if half of the ties are replaced with scarves, how many more scarves do we have in the store? Well, you'll notice here that if 20% of the scarves represent the store and 60% of the ties represent all the objects in the store, that means that 80% of the store is comprised of scarves and ties. Therefore, 20% must be belts. So therefore, the number of objects in the store times 20% is equal to 40. So therefore, if I solve for N here, you take 40 and divide it by 0.2, we get 200. So there's 200 objects in the store. And now that I have that the number of objects in the store is 200, I now know that the number of scarves is going to be 20% of the 200 objects in the store is going to give me 40 scarves, and likewise I know that 60% times the number of objects in the store is going to give me 120. So the new number of scarves is you have your 40 from before plus you're going to go ahead and get half of these. Well, half of 120 is 60. So adding that together, you get 100 scarves. So number 15 here, we have Danielle has $1,000 in a checking account, $3,000 in savings. The checking account earns 1% interest compounded annually. The savings account earns 6% interest compounded annually. Assuming he leaves both of these accounts alone, which of the following represents how much more interest will be in the account, the savings account, than the checking account after 5 years? Right away, if you're investing $3,000 in savings, you know you're going to have the $3,000 and you're earning 6% on that after 5 years. So this will represent the amount of money that's in the account in total after 6 years in the savings account. And if I take the $1,000 and multiply by 1.01 to the power of 5, that'll be the total amount of money in the checking account after 5 years, including your principal investment for both of these. And what we want to know here is how much more interest was earned. So by taking a look at A here, which and subtracting these two, we'll not know the amount of interest earned. This will be the difference in the total amount of money between the both of them. But if the interest is how much interest was earned, difference between the two, we're going to have to go with C here, because you can see in C they end up taking the total amount of money that you have with interest minus your principal. That'll just represent interest here. And then if you take the total amount of money that you have with your interest and then subtract off your initial investment, again, that'll be solely the interest. By subtracting those two, we'll then have the difference of the interest earned.